the camera. Give it off, down.
Hey everyone, this is Joey Famelli, screen video editor. I'm going to give you a look into the post-production process for editing a screen feature. You probably saw a couple weeks ago we did a making of screened video features with Rorie, kind of showing you the scripting process, the editing, and then we went into publishing the video. So I figure I will show you a little more in-depth look at just the editing process in general. What programs I use and plugins. I got a lot of questions about that kind of stuff. Thought I'd give Rorie a week off from the subscriber content and kind of play around with this editing and screen recording within a screen recording. So if you see what I got here is a screen recording of the entire process of editing the Half Good for Phantom Menace. I'll kind of go through, and this is a good way for me to scrub through and stop and pause and highlight certain things so I can show you exactly what I do. Let me bring this up a little bit. After that, I'll answer some of these questions here. Any that I don't get to, I will answer in the blog post. This is wacky. So here you can see we just got done shooting. I brought the footage into Final Cut. We use Final Cut 7 here. There's other programs, Premiere, Avid, you can use for video editing. We have Final Cut Base set up here. Final Cut 7 specifically, not X. Probably no plans to go to that, but so here's 7. So here's the one clip right here. You see, I did this whole highlighter. This is all the video that we shot of Rorie talking about the Phantom Menace. And what I do here is just go through and construct the script. So let's fast forward a little bit. So all the takes, all the flubs, the do-overs, the paragraph breaks, anything where we stop, I kind of make the script flow in the timeline. So I have just you can see here's like the first paragraph. So from here, I use a plugin called Automatic Duck, which pushes out an XML to Adobe After Effects. There we go. So this is kind of a cool plugin. You use it to, normally when you bring something in After Effects, it just comes in as one video clip. This translates the XML file and creates clips and cuts on how you had it in Final Cut. And if I had something like color correction and filters, that would also be brought over into After Effects so that I can manipulate them here. It just looks a lot cleaner. You don't get any gamma shifts from different codecs, which was an issue before. So here you can see all of the cuts. It creates layers out of all those cuts, so it's a little jarring at first, but I just pre-compose the audio here, turn this into one audio composition. There. All the video. What do I do here? What am I starting with? I'm starting with levels. I'm just going to adjust basically color correction. Punch up the blacks a little bit. And then adjust. It's very orange over on our brick set, so I try to reduce that a little bit. Bring it a little cooler on some areas. Bring up the level, the vibrance on him and the posters, so that makes it easier to key out. Ooh. So this all can be done way afterwards. I can actually edit the whole thing in Final Cut using just this and just push this out and render this later, or even do this all in Final Cut. I like to use After Effects just because I like to have everything rendered and complete before I even start. This also helps with just minor adjustments. If Rorie says, hey, can you change this, or I need to change something last minute, I don't need to re-render it in Final Cut. Final Cut makes you kind of re-render things as you change them. This way, it's just going to push out one fully rendered file that you will never have to touch again, never have to worry about, so you can do whatever you want with. It's an easier way for me to work. Other people would probably prefer to use Final Cut. I like this. It all depends on what you like to do. So now, after the color balance, color correction levels are done, I'm going to key out the green poster. Well, for this, we use a plugin called Primat. This is a plugin you can use for Final Cut or for After Effects. Again, I use it in After Effects, very similar, they look almost alike. This is the alpha, making sure that just the poster is keyed out and everything else is there. And I add in the Phantom Menace poster. You can see I do it on a 3D layer so that I can add a light and try to mimic what's happening on set. Just a little composition. A pet peeve I have is something looking way too out of place. So here you can see I got the light in. I'm going to pull the light back, give it the feathering, the intensity that it needs. And then I had a little break. I must have stopped it here, but I rendered it out. It takes about an hour and a half. I think I left home that day, so end of the day I finished, hit render. It takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Came back the next day, it's all ready to work. And a little time jump here. I think I started this late, but here you can see I'm starting now to cut in the actual movie of Phantom Menace in with Rorie. So all this here is Rorie and his audio. All this here is movie Phantom Menace and its audio. I'll do some heavy audio mixing. That's the last step I do. I go through and I mix all the audio together and then add music. So here you can see I'm going through, this is half good, so it makes it kind of easier to edit. He says, the bad, Jar Jar Binks. I find all the footage of Jar Jar Binks being terrible. So it's nice. It's a nice kind of structured way to edit this. Usually like the besties and something like defending your movies is sometimes a little more interpretive or meditative, I guess, and then I have to really kind of find specific moments that he's referring to or things that have touched him in a certain way. So I kind of like these for just quickness. They're faster to get out than most other features. Half goods take about, I'd say this whole process about 6 hours. It was pretty quick. Oh, I'm sorry. A Bessie's is usually about 6 hours. Half goods are about 4 to 5. I think I had this one in 4 hours, which is pretty quick. So the good lightsaber battles. Find like an awesome lightsaber battle at the end. I make the movie really big. This is 2 hours right here of footage. So I make this window gigantic so that I can scrub and find certain frames easier. When you bring the window down, like over here on the, I don't know why my cursor's not letting me go over there. That's all right. Look at the mouse. Where Rorie's at here, you can see it's, when I scrub, it jumps through much larger chunks of time. So that way you can see the movie will be a lot easier when you make it this big. You can scrub through and not go through that much time. So you can pinpoint certain moments in a 2 hour movie easier than you would in this situation. So now before I add music, my next step is to mix the audio of the movie with Rorie's audio. This is kind of important. You don't want 2 layers of talking. Rorie's going to be talking here. I don't want a big dialogue, high in volume, behind him. It's going to sound kind of confusing. It's a little weird to listen to 2 different conversations happening. So I tend to bring those levels down quite a bit. Bring action up. You want to hear lightsaber clinking against each other. So I guess I'll go through some of these questions here. I got a few questions. I'm probably not going to answer them all. Any I don't answer, I will try to go through on the blog post and answer them there. So let's start with any editing software recommendations for someone looking to tinker with making videos. How did you hear about the Opening Night Whiskey? This is from DVD Haas. I started kind of, video software has changed a little bit, not too much since I started. I started with, I think the very first thing I ever touched was iMovie, and at that time it was like kind of new. It did what I did for a school project. It worked fine, but I ended up learning on an Avid machine. We had an Avid machine. We had one Avid machine at our school. I ended up jumping into that for a little bit, and then used my student discount, which I ended up using for years afterwards. Even after I was a student, I just started buying things with student discounts. So if you are a student or have any access to a student ID number, and you want to get into video editing, do not ever pay full price. Look on Apple Store's got like their student discount store. If you're looking into Final Cut, I'm sure Adobe's got one for Premiere. I would say start with something simple like iMovie maybe or Final Cut. Something that's kind of intuitive. Avid's not really intuitive. You look at Avid and it's very daunting to look at. It's an insane looking program. It's the kind of the standard as of now, the standard for feature film editing in the motion picture industry. We're talking about like big studio stuff. A lot of the there are some films that have been edited on Final Cut, and it's becoming more popular, especially over the last like 7 years. It's been really jumping up there, but Avid is still quite a beast in that industry. But it uses principles kind of based off the old Moviolo techniques of editing. I find Final Cut, Premiere, to be more of a for the computer geek, I guess. This is my opinion. It differs, but jump to something simple. If you have access to iMovie, try it out. See, you'll get your basic concepts and fundamentals down there. But if you do have access to Final Cut or Premiere, try those out. I mean, there's a lot of tutorials you can find on YouTube. Part 2, how did I hear about the opening at Whiskey? I guess there's a few questions that kind of involve that, so maybe I'll just hit them all here. I was, at that time, about 2 years ago I started here, I was freelancing a lot. I was working with a production company up north where I was living at the time, and the freelance was kind of running dry a little bit, and just kind of poking around on Craigslist, and eventually saw the opening for video intern to hire position for Comic Vine. Was looking for a video producer. At that time, it was just Comic Vine, Giant Bomb, and Anime Vice. And I was a big comic fan when I was growing up, so I thought, hey, give it a shot. I knew Ryan from beforehand as mutual acquaintances. We have the same friends, so I just threw Ryan an email. Hey man, here's my resume. If they're still looking for one video producer, then pass it on. And at that time, they just filled it, so I was like, oh, too bad. That's a shame. Maybe if they ever need anybody again, give me a call. So a few months went by, I got a call. So yeah, it was just pretty awesome. Did the intern, had a lot of fun. Just got hired on, and it's been pretty rad. I had a little bit of a reel from the freelance work. I just got off a bunch of music video stuff, had some music stuff, some touring stuff. So I had like on the road experience, which I know Vinny was really excited to hear about, being that Comic-Con was coming up, E3 was coming up, and all those events, and it's kind of a beast in its own in tackling those on the road shoots. Blah blah blah. Pac-Man Fiva. Do you use many After Effects plugins? We talked about that. Primat and Automatic Duck. Those are the two guys. A little bit expensive, but that's my core package. My core package is Final Cut, After Effects, Automatic Duck, and Primat. Two plugins and the two programs I use. I use Soundbooth. You can see down here. Adobe Soundbooth is an audio program. Use that just to kind of normalize and equalize levels. Delabaloo asks, getting started at video production is a very daunting task. Could you recommend any baby steps or good guides that would help me ease my way in? I use for all my After Effects tutorials, I use a lot of like Video Copilot. Just do a Google search for that, you'll find it. Creative Cow, Linda Training, they do all videos about kind of the essentials of video production. Helped me out quite a bit. YouTube it, Google it, check them out. If you dig it, you can buy packages of DVDs and books. Books have never really been too helpful. I kind of messed around with books a little bit with Avid when I was using it, but the videos are really what helps. Just watching people kind of demonstrate what they're trying to explain to you. Do you ever feel weird spending large chunks of your time staring at video and pictures of Rorie? Sometimes, yes. Ever since Alex left to go to New York, pretty much most of my video is with Rorie, so I look at him a lot. But no, it's not too weird. I mean, this Rorie, I guess, is different than the Rorie that sits behind me. It's kind of the person that I'm editing with the video. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not too weird. Sometimes my thinking voice is his voice, which can be strange, but you kind of disconnect yourself from the reality of the person and the person that's in front of you on video. I guess that's just part of the consequence of the job. Who decides what videos get made? Does Rorie go up to you saying he wants a besties, or vice versa? Do other whiskey folks besides you and Matt get in the mix? Well, yeah, we have like Ryan coming in. Anybody that loves movies, really. The screen's kind of good because everyone loves movies and everyone has an opinion about it. So you can kind of rope anybody in who really has something compelling to say about a movie or television show that they love. So it's great getting Ryan and Norm's opinions on what video features we're we're trying to put together. But as far as what videos get made, it's usually them. It's usually Rorie will come up to me and saying, hey, I got us here for a bestie. Hey, I got half good. To be more specific, let's say the genesis of half good. Hey, I got an idea for a video feature. This is a half good feature. I'm going to go split the movie in half. Here are 2 good things, here are 2 bad things. And then I look at the feature itself and think, all right, how can I visually put this together? And like that's where you see the little graphics come in, and just the kind of the flow of it. Something like the half good. And, I realized I didn't need to spend an enormous amount of time cutting to a scene to be very specific. So it's them deciding what features they want to do that week. They kind of come up with the ideas, and I turn that idea into something visual. Here's another plugin question from Nicola. I've had some motion graphics stuff for television using After Effects, and I can say from experience we spend more money on plugins than the core Adobe software. That is totally true. Plugins can be very expensive. There are some free ones available for like transitions you can grab, but all the big guys like the Primat and Automatic Duck, you're looking to spend $1,200 on both of those. So that's an alternative. Automatic Duck's great, but you don't need it. You can figure out ways around it by just using the basic tools of After Effects. Final Cut's keying software is kind of a little funny. It's very simple. You can't do real precision keying or spill killing. There's another one called Keylight you can check out. But just fool around with Final Cuts. And if you got Final Cut, fool around with it. Fool around with your editing program's stock keying plugin to get the fundamentals down for that. And then you can decide if you want to go into the higher end stuff. Cool Jammer 00 says, can you teach me After Effects? It's really hard. I don't remember anything from my summer class. I did not take any classes regarding After Effects. I didn't actually really touch After Effects too much until I started working here. Like I said, I started with the videos at Comic Vine, and we were dealing with a lot of comic book images being put onto video. So I decided then it would be a good time to check it out. I've only used it for compositing before, which is like putting a basic green screening and overlaying of video and images. So, like I said, I used a little bit of tutorials on YouTube. Just learned the basics. Kind of started from there. Added images every week. We were doing videos, so every week I'd kind of give myself a new task to do with After Effects, and I basically just self-taught myself, which I guess I'd kind of always done, but with the help of videos and books. So I can't teach you After Effects. I'd love to, but I totally check out. If you have access to the program, just do what I do and start with images. You need video, or just grab video off of YouTube and put it in there and fool around. Just get like get the understanding of the keyframing and how everything works in the timeline, and how everything is kind of layered on top of each other, and it'll all come. And as projects come along, you can increase your ambition and do more with it. Tell us about your puppy from Always Be Clothing. I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull a Rorie here and pull it out of this. So I have an American Staffordshire Terrier. Lucky. Oh, it's my cat. There he is. I don't know if you can see, he's only got one ear. So when my then girlfriend, now wife, went to go find a dog, we were looking at pounds for, I guess, rescues. A friend of ours was, hey, you gotta check out these American Staffordshire Terrier pups from this breeder. They are adorable, which they were. I'm gonna YouTube them right now. Staffordshire. American Staffordshire Terrier is a pit bull-like, puppies, not dogs. A pit bull-like dog. For a while, they were kind of classified as the same thing. but they're a little bit leaner, a little bit taller. Oh my God. And see, that's what Lucky looked like, except brown. Giant paws and then just one ear. But a little bit leaner, not as stout, not as muscular. Adorable dogs, but what happened was, so we went there, the breeder showed us all the dogs, and we thought, well, we still want to kind of go for a rescue. Sorry. That opened up a weird little area of this breeder's world. He's, hey, you want to come check something out? I got one more dog to show you in the back room. Like, what? In the back room? Like, what kind of dog is this? So we went back there, and he showed us Lucky, who was the last of the litter that we were looking at. And what happened was his mom got fed up and pulled him out with her teeth and tore his tore his ear off. So we had to take him. There was no way. A little puppy with one ear, big old feet, and doughy eyes was staring at us. We took him home, and he's been a joy ever since. Now he's getting old. He's like 9 years old. He's arthritis, no longer a puppy. Oh, and this is our cat, a flat-faced Persian named Peaches. The breeder told us that was a girl. The vet went to go get him spayed, and the vet told us it was a boy. So now we have a flat-faced Persian boy cat named Peaches. And Lucky, a one-eared American Staffordshire Terrier. So we got kind of a weird collection of creatures here. But Lucky's great. These dogs are super. I've always had terriers. They're super friendly, just great dogs to have. Except if you're renting. I've been renting for the last 10 years, and it makes it extremely hard to rent if you have any kind of pit bull breed. Any place that allows dogs usually have breed restrictions. So he's been not allowed at a lot of apartments. So we've been having to choose from like 2 apartments in all of LA and 2 apartments all of San Francisco. But we've been doing fine, and he's great. I highly recommend these dogs, except if you're going to be renting, then you probably shouldn't. But they're great dogs. I love them. All right, let's get back to video editing. Let's do one more video. Oh, let's put you down here. Right there. You go up. Okay, back to the questions. Maybe discuss the future of Final Cut as you see it. If they can't make X right, or at least a proper Final Cut 8, will you guys move to Premiere/Avid? This is from Jacob from MT, who asked about the lights earlier. If anything bad, if Final Cut 7 was to just die and X was the only resort, we would probably end up moving to Premiere. Avid's a little too pricey. Final Cut X, I've only spent about 5 hours total with it. I edited one feature here, and I've played around with it at a friend's production house, and that just doesn't seem like it is fit for a professional environment. I think they're doing a lot of things that seem fun for kind of the everyday person who wants to make videos or their home videos or anything like that. But the way their mentality is with their workflow and their timeline here is that they want you to set it. They want you to be able to not just have one way of doing things, which means that everybody can have different ways of putting together what they call like storyline, which is a new primary storyline. It's like a new kind of concept that they're coming up with. The only thing you really need to know about that is that it makes it so that everybody can do kind of the same thing in a lot of different ways, which doesn't seem like it would be good for a production house that shares projects. So let's say I was to throw a video project over to Anna, who would look at it and be terribly confused with how the hell I put together that project. So yeah, it just doesn't seem fit for the professional environment. So if not Final Cut 7, then Avid. If not Final Cut 8. Not Avid, Premiere. I'll do one more question here. This is kind of a paraphrase from a few other questions, but the Otocourt asks, how did you start getting into video stuff? Did you take a class one day, seemed interesting, or playing with a video recorder when you were young? Do you have products at home to practice with while you were learning all this stuff? Probably started video editing, really heavily video editing, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago. It was most of my early experience came from like on-set stuff, production assistant, gripping, shooting. Editing, I really didn't jump too heavily into probably a few years before starting this job. I was living in LA, early college. I was looking at film schools down there, and I was doing a lot of freelance work and also just like copy credit meal stuff, which those of you who have ventured through Craigslist looking for film jobs have seen. It's just a way of getting experience and kind of, I don't know, kind of odd way to get free labor down there. So I did a lot of on-set stuff. Worked a little bit with a studio house, and we worked a lot with comedians and did a lot of comedy club shootings. So I got to learn kind of the camera basics at comedy clubs. At that point, I moved back up north, up here in Northern California, to finish school. I did a degree in business finance. I decided at that point that film school probably wasn't for me. I just didn't have the money that those film schools were demanding, and I decided if I was going to go back to college, I'd do more as a backup, kind of a second interest. At that time was business finance and economics, which was a heavy interest of mine outside of film. So I decided to go back, just nail out 2 years, do the most amount of units I could possibly do, while spending all my free time kind of joining the film clubs and still engulfing myself into my passion, which was video production and film. So even though I was going to school for finance and studying economics, all my free time went to just kind of put myself into the film production environment as much as possible, and that included internships. I kind of went to the phone book, looked up a local production house, gave them a call. Those guys really gave me an opportunity to get my hands on a lot of stuff, and that's when I kind of really started editing, was when they gave me like an editing bay there and allowed me to work on a lot of projects with them, and then also borrow a lot of the equipment, which they were super kind to do. And I would borrow like a camera package, a lighting package, take it out and shoot a bunch of short films with my friends. All my friends were still in Northern California. We weren't quite at the age yet where we all moved away and grown up, so we were still relatively young. Decided to mess around, fuck around with the camera, and do a bunch of short films, have fun while we're kind of in that time of our life, and that was a lot of fun. We went to some local film festivals. Ended up going to I think there was like the Sonoma Valley International Film Festival, which got us an IMDb credit on one of our short films, which was kind of fun. But yeah, that was great. And those guys worked a lot of corporate events and also a lot of music videos, which I really love doing. A lot of like heavy metal music videos, which was cool at the time. I was but just before that, when I was in LA, doing a lot of rap music videos and short films for schools, and now I'm doing short films with friends, working on heavy metal, kind of goofy heavy metal music videos. So that's where most of my freelance work came from while I was in Sonoma County, going to school for business finance. So I was studying economics during the day, and then moonlighting as a production assistant editor at night. 2 years flew by. I got my degree. Those guys started throwing me some more work. Went on like a music tour over through the East Coast. Just kind of lived with a band in a tour bus to film their behind-the-scenes documentary. And then after that, there wasn't really a whole lot of work. I came back, just kind of working my part-time job. That's when I kind of contacted, whiskey. So yeah, that's my story. I started up here, grew up here, moved to LA, learned by working for free basically on my spare time. Just talking to people, kind of doing as much as I could without having to go to film school, which I don't regret. I think that on-set experience was pretty rad. Film school is great. I mean, people make connections and contacts and kind of get together with a group of people that they will be working with for a long time, and it's great for that stuff. It wasn't for me. Just didn't have the dough, didn't have the money, didn't have the guts to really jump into a huge student loan, like most of the film schools down there would have put me into. So it was a lot of, didn't really have a life for a while. It was a lot of just work, school during the day, shooting, playing with as much stuff as I possibly can get my hands on by offering up my time to companies and production houses, which I recommend doing. I mean, you're interested in this kind of stuff, call your local production company, see if they need a hand with any shoots. They probably would love to put you as a production assistant, and just take in all you can. Get there, take in all you can, and you will learn some stuff and hopefully learn what you would like to do in the film production world or post-production world, be it in my case. So I hope that helped. I'm going to wrap this up. Let me jump to the kind of near the end of this. This is me now putting the music in. Just give it a nice flow. That's the last step. That's where I'm finishing up. Watch it a couple times. Make sure everything flows good. In point, out point, export out, and get a half good of the Phantom Menace. I will try to answer some of these questions that I didn't get to in the blog post. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. If you ever have any specific questions, feel free to throw me a PM. I'm Joey F on all the sites. I'd love to answer, help out any way I could. Thank you. I'm going to wrap this up by pressing escape and stop. Goodbye.